American Sikh immigrant. He was recently appointed commissioner to the Alameda County Public Health Commission and is the CEO for Rhoda Care, free medical clinics. Devinder is a delegate from 8020 and will be presenting Guru Nanak Gurpurab. Welcome, Devinder ji.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Good evening, and thank you everyone for joining tonight and celebrating Sikh Awareness and Appreciation Month with us. Tonight, I'm going to share the importance of Guru Nanak Dev Ji for Sikhs. Satguru Nanak Pargatya Miti Tund Jag Chanan Hoa. When Guru Nanak Ji was born, there was a mystical feeling surrounding him. Born in 1469, in the Punjab region of India and Pakistan, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the first Guru and the founder of the Sikh religion, which is the fifth largest religion in the world. Guru Nanak Ji did not identify himself as Hindu or Muslim, though he was born into a Hindu family of a high caste. From a young age, Guru Nanak Ji was spiritual. He often spoke out against prevalent societal practices such as the caste system and worship of demigods. He would work during the day as an accountant and meditate in mornings and evenings singing hymns. As he got older, he left his young family behind, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji started 4 major spiritual journeys, or dasis, spanning across South Asia, India, Tibet, and Arabia. Throughout his travels, Guru Nanak Ji spread the message that we can find divinity within each of us through prayer, humility, service, meditation, and virtuous living. After his travels, Guru Nanak Ji spent the rest of his life at Kartarpur, where he earned an honest living by farming. Guru Nanak Dev Ji taught his followers to live honestly, treat everyone equally, regardless of gender or religion, respect the environment, and give back to the community through service. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's followers became known as Sikhs, which means seekers of truth. Sikh follow 3 basic tenets of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Naam Japo, meditate, Kirt Karo, earn an honest living, and Van Chako, share with others and help those in need. For almost a century, Sikhs have been an integral part of the communities within California, sharing and giving back to the community. During the pandemic, Sikhs hosted vaccine clinics at local Sikh gurdwaras, distributed PPE supplies, and provided meals to many residents throughout California, following the tenets of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. November is the month Sikhs around the world celebrate the Prakash Purab, or birth of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Again, thank you for joining us in celebrating Sikh Awareness Month. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Devinder ji, thank you so very much. Our next speaker of the evening is Sergey Shima, who's a delegate from Assembly District 7 in Sacramento. He's currently the Director of Programs at California Change Lawyers. Prior to California Change Lawyers, his resume includes holding positions at the San Francisco Foundation, Sikh Coalition, and INSAF. Jasjeet is also the board president of Jagara Movement. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of California, Riverside, and a law degree from the Thomas Jefferson School of Law. Jasjeet and his wife have called Sacramento home for the last 3 years. And tonight he will be speaking about Bandi Chhor Divas. Thank you, Jasjeet.
Thank you, Devinder. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Again, my name is Jasjeet Singh. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm really honored to be given this opportunity to share a bit about the significance of Diwali when it comes to the Sikh community. And while I don't think these next few minutes will answer every single question you have about the Sikh perspective of Diwali, I hope it leads to some level of curiosity, conversation, and understanding. So I'll just start by saying that Diwali has been celebrated for hundreds of years throughout South Asia. Its roots lie within the Hindu faith, yet the communal celebration that commemorates the victory of light over darkness is something celebrated by folks of all backgrounds, including Sikhs, Jains, Hindus, Buddhists, and more. So for the Sikh community, there are multiple historical events attached to Diwali that give it some Sikh significance. So historical records indicate that the city of Amritsar, famously known to house Harmandir Sahib, also known as the Golden Temple, was founded on the same day as Diwali in 1577. But the most significant event associated with Diwali for the Sikh community is the occasion of Bandi Chhor Divas. So really quickly, Bandi translates to prisoner, Chhor means release, and Divas is a day of importance. So it translates to the day of liberation. But there's a story behind this. So I'll just start with a very simple basic fact that the Sikh faith has had 10 living gurus, and the 11th guru being the Guru Granth Sahib, which is considered a living scripture and is found at every Gurdwara or Sikh place of worship. So throughout Sikh history, Sikhs have been subject to persecution in the form of arrest, torture, and genocide. And during the rise of the Sikh faith in the 16th and 17th centuries, that persecution came at the hands of the ruling Mughal Empire. So Bandi Chhor Divas is actually a celebration of the release of Guru Har Gobind, the sixth guru, in 1619. Following the execution, Guru Har Gobind became the guru, and in an effort to protect the Sikh community and those facing persecution at the hands of the Mughals, he began strengthening his army. It's also this time that he began the construction of what is known as the Akal Takht, or the timeless one, Amritsar. So it was actually the sphere of the rise of power that the guru was imprisoned by the state. Eventually, however, the story goes that the emperor built a likeness to the guru and agreed to free the guru. However, during this time in prison, the guru inspired other prisoners to join him in prayers, and in building those relationships with the guru refused to be freed unless those other 52 prisoners, who happened to be princes, were also freed. The emperor eventually agreed, but he said that the only way for these other folks to be released is if they held on to some aspect or outfit of the guru, thinking that a few other prisoners may be released. The guru accepted this challenge and had his tailor made a special outfit with 52, I'd say, coattails attached to them. At the time of the release, the guru donned this heavy outfit, which stretched for yards and yards behind him. The 52 princes attached and grasped onto a coattail, and as they all walked out, careful to not let go, they walked out to freedom, to the cheers of the Guru's Sikhs. Several days later, when Guru Har Gobind reached Amritsar, the Hindu festival of lights, Diwali, was being celebrated. In their joy of seeing their Guru again, the people lit up the entire city with candles, lights, and lamps. And after almost 400 years, this tradition continues in Amritsar, it continues in California and around the world, as homes and gurdwaras are illuminated in celebration of the return of the Guru. Diwali also continued to be an important day of significance even after 1619. As the Sikh Empire was coming into power in the 1700s, Diwali became a festival during which the Sikh military leaders would meet to discuss strategy as fireworks and celebrations rained on. For Sikhs, Diwali is a celebration of light. It marks a time that their Guru, their own light, the liberator, returned to his home at the Akal Takht in Amritsar. It signifies the importance of the shared fight that we all carry today to ensure that we free ourselves of the prisons that we have created through our hate, ego, greed, and other monsters that continue to fight us every single day. Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Yes, Gigi, thank you so very much. Our next speaker of the evening will be Wendy Singh, who is an ADEM delegate for 89, which covers South Sacramento, Elk Grove, and Lodi. He's been a Sikh community advocate for 10 years and works in the healthcare administration. He will be speaking about the history of Sikhs in California. Please welcome Wendy Ji.
Thank you, Devinder. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I'm happy to talk to you this evening about Sikh history in California. Many people often don't realize how tied is the recent history of Sikhs with California. It's truly a shared history. Sikhs have been in the US for over 100 years. It is estimated that there are 500,000 Sikhs in the US and 250,000 just in California alone. California was a preferred destination for many early Sikh immigrants. The land and climate was similar to their homeland of Punjab. Landing at Angel Island in the late 1800s, our community settled in California to work on the railroad, in the lumber industry, and in farming. California's Sikhs immediately took to agriculture. As they did in Punjab, Sikhs in California thrived in farming, and even though they were not allowed to own land, Sikhs helped create the California breadbasket up and down the Central Valley. This was not without struggle. Sikhs were discriminated against culturally, systemically, and legally. They were made scapegoats for a variety of issues in the state and country, from our early days to recent times. In 1907, Sikhs working in the lumber industry in Bellingham, Washington, were driven out of town by white mobs in what is now known as the Bellingham Riots of 1907. During US military actions in the Middle East, Sikhs in the US often became targeted based on our distinct appearance. In fact, the first backlash murder after 9/11 was that of a Sikh man in Arizona named Balbir Singh Sodhi. So we know very well the struggle against a variety of levels of bigotry and relate to similar struggles shared by other communities. California can celebrate being home to the first Sikh house of worship in the United States, here in Stockton, California. The Gurdwara was founded in 1912 for Sikhs to congregate and pray and to act as a community center. Over 100 years later, it still stands on its original place in Stockton. It was in this time and place that California's Sikh community became politically engaged. The Ghadar movement was based here, which is a community of South Asians who supported and fought for India's independence from British rule. It was a Sikh from this very congregation who challenged race-based American citizenship laws. Bhagat Singh Thind was a soldier in the US Army during World War I who sought US citizenship. He was denied citizenship multiple times because he couldn't demonstrate that he qualified as a Caucasian. And on his last challenge, after the denial of his last challenge, the US government denaturalized South Asians across the US as a result of the legal precedent. He would some years later become a citizen on the basis of his military service. Aside from this community, also from this community, the first Asian American in Congress, not just the first Sikh American or first Indian American, but the first Asian American in US Congress was a Sikh man from California named Dalip Singh Sond, who represented the Riverside, California area in the 1950s. Sikhs continue to put California on the map in ways many of us don't realize. The largest farms of various crops are those very farms whose lands the first Sikhs tilled. The father of fiber optics, whose pioneering we are benefiting from at this moment, was a Sikh man named Narinder Singh Kampani. California also has one of the strongest workplace religious freedom laws in the country, which was an effort that began after the workplace discrimination of Sikhs by public agencies. The passing of the Workplace Religious Freedom Act in 2012 was a law that was advocated by California Sikh community, but was ensured to protect the religious freedoms of all in the state. Since the passing of that law, we have seen Sikhs and other communities now serving in California law enforcement agencies, in the military, and in other occupations in which many communities were blocked from due to religious discrimination. And it's timely to mention that the largest Sikh festival in the country, drawing almost 100,000 visitors annually, is a Sikh festival called the Yuba City Nagar Kirtan, which happens in this month of November each year. It is in the context of this history that we're happy to celebrate California Sikh Awareness and Appreciation Month. Thank you for joining us today to commemorate California Sikh community.
Wendy G, thank you so very much. We'd like to take a moment to have everyone recognize the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Our delegates are eager to answer all your questions. If you can go ahead and direct all your questions over to the Q&A session, we'll make sure to have these questions answered at the end of this evening. Our next speaker is Amar Shergill, and who is an executive board member of the California Democratic Party and chair of the Progressive Caucus. He's also an attorney with leadership positions in several nonprofit organizations. Tonight, he will be speaking about Sikh genocide. We're going to take a brief little moment to go ahead and upload the video.
Thank you to everyone for being here. I'm going to speak a little bit about the November 1984 genocide of Sikhs in India and why it continues to be an issue which reverberates within the Sikh community. If you want to understand Sikhs, you need to understand their issues, and this is certainly one of them. There's estimates of about a couple 100,000 Sikhs living in California, many of them in large numbers in cities, but also in the Central Valley up and down the Highway 99 corridor. And what you need to know about those communities is that many of them escaped persecution in India. Most families have some deep connection to those events, or somebody that was in it, or survived, or that they lost. And even those that don't have a very close connection feel very deeply about these issues, not just because we want to honor those that were sacrificed and continue to advocate for justice on their behalf, but also because we know that Sikhs, as a tiny percentage of the Indian population, just a few percent, that we are always on the verge of a genocide in India, just a bad news cycle away, a horrific event away from that happening again. And we saw over the last year in our successful farmers' protest that there were some moments where it looked like there would be a mass casualty event. And we were thankful that through international pressure that didn't happen. But that is one of the reasons why the 1984 genocide of Sikhs continues to be an issue that we feel very passionately about. But turning to what happened in November 1984, you really need to have a little bit of context in the years preceding. I think it's fair to say that even since the creation of the Indian state, there's been tension between Sikhs who live mostly in Punjab in India and having local control versus central government control from Delhi. And a lot of those issues concentrate around language and religion, commerce, and certainly water and agriculture. And in the 70s and 80s, that tension heated up, and there was conflict, physical violence between government forces and those in Punjab, Sikhs that wanted more local control. And ultimately what happened is that in June 1984, the Indian government decided that they would take the unprecedented step of attacking Sikh houses of worship across India. And that's exactly what they did. Thousands of people were killed, and the most horrific events happened in Amritsar, which is the most divine place of worship for Sikhs, is the Golden Temple of Amritsar in Amritsar, and it was invaded by the military, and lives were lost there during a religious holiday, and the images of men, women, and children being slaughtered, and the pictures of the buildings being destroyed is something that every Sikh remembers to this day. So that happened in June 1984. In November 1984, two Sikh bodyguards of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi assassinated her. And the government, then, after the assassination led by her son, the government decided to use that as an opportunity to finally address the Sikh community through violence. And they used the government institutions, they used the police, they told the military to stand down, and in Delhi, in the shadow of the capital, modern democracy, and across the country, they rallied mobs. So they used buses, they provided gas, they provided weapons, and they brought murderous mobs into Sikh communities, provided voter lists so they could identify where Sikhs lived. They burned homes, they burned businesses, and they engaged in just the most horrific acts of genocide. burning alive men and women, raping women in front of their family members, murdering sons in front of their mothers. And we were blessed in those days that many Muslims and Hindus came to the aid of Sikhs. But what we also know is that thousands died across the nation. So justice was never served after those horrific events. The horrible bigots that were leading those events remained in government to this day. And there have been some prosecutions, but mostly this issue has been suppressed. So there's never been a true measure of justice. And it was not until I was provided an opportunity to write a resolution here in California in 2015 that was introduced by Assembly Member Jim Cooper with the assistance of his then District Director, Mikey Hoti. And the resolution said for the first time by any state government anywhere in the world that the government of India was responsible. Not just that it had happened, not just that it was a regrettable incident and that many died under the most horrific circumstances, but that the government of India was culpable, helped lead this horrible massacre. And Assemblymember Jim Cooper said on the floor of the Assembly that it was a genocide. And since that time, since that resolution was passed, unanimously in the Assembly, unanimously in the Senate, and there have been other resolutions that followed in universities, in many cities, especially up and down the Central Valley of California, in Pennsylvania, and other locations around the world. So California has been a real leader on these issues. And we want folks to continue to remember and understand that we honor what happened there and the folks that lost their lives, not just because of what happened then, but because we know that we must do everything we can to ensure that those acts are not repeated. And for those of you that represent Sikh communities or involved in organizations that serve the Sikh community, knowing these issues, it helps you understand why Sikhs place such importance on standing up for other communities. It is part of our faith tradition to stand up for others before we stand up for ourselves, because we know in protecting their civil liberties, we are protecting our own and we are protecting the future of our community. So thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to learn about this, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
A great big thank you to Amarji. He had a conflict of interest and was not able to join today, but wanted to, again, thank everyone for attending. Our last speaker of the evening is Sergey Shima, who's an Assembly District 20 delegate and an executive board member of California Democratic Party. Sarjeet also serves on the New Haven Unified School District's board, and she is serving in her 12th year. Currently, she is the president. Sarjeet Kaur Chimaji is the first Dastad-wearing Sikh woman elected to any public office in the United States. Beside her community work, she worked for California State as a civil engineer for almost 2 decades, empowering common people through education and awareness is her lifelong passion. Thank you, Sergey Kaur Chimaji, for joining us today.
Hello, I hope you had a restful Thanksgiving with your family and friends. Thank you, Devinder Kaur Garewal, for the wonderful introduction. My role here today is to update you about the Sikh delegates' work in the historic farmers' protest in India. As you know, in a surprise contrition, Indian Prime Minister Modi has announced to repeal 3 controversial agriculture laws. Yay, clap. So we are taking the time to celebrate farmers' victory. Given the sacrifice involved, it feels difficult to celebrate. 700 farmers have lost their lives. At the same time, we also wonder about the end game. Definitely, fight is not over yet. Those of us who understand why the farmers protested know that those moments feel like beginning, then end. Actually, a culture-wise shakeup is needed to remove the shackles that India's agriculture, economic, and social infrastructure has put on the working class. Last month, I visited India for an urgent family matter. So I got an opportunity to visit historic protests at the ground level. So me, my husband Preetham, and my youngest son visited many local protest sites in the Punjab province of India. Witnessing farmers' resolve is indeed inspiring. Seeing their ability to affect change provides hope. Through those local interactions, I was able to build relationships to secure a speaking spot at one of the main United Farmers Front stage at the Singhu border to New Delhi, capital of India. I shared the Punjabi translation version of California Democratic Party's resolution number 2104-142, passed on August 29, 2021. You will be able to watch a video clip of that towards the end of my speech. We, as the Sikh delegates, are so thankful to our party, community, and all the statewide delegates to pass this resolution, historic resolution, supporting the protesting farmers. My previous speaker, a fellow delegate and executive board member, Amar Shergill, have shared the 1984 Sikh genocide history. In 1947, during India's partition, Sikhs lost most, way out of their proportion. Exactly after 37 years of that partition, 1984 Sikh genocide happened. Now, in this 2021, exactly after 37 years of 1984, global Sikh diaspora was really concerned and worried about another massacre under the name of suppressing farmers' protest. Sikh nation is still processing those previous genocides. I would like to share a quote from the book Trauma and Recovery, written by Judith Herman. All the perpetrator asks is that the bystander do nothing. He appeals to the universal desire to see, hear, and speak no evil. The victim, on the contrary, asks the bystander to share the burden of pain. The victim demands action, engagement, and remembering. This is what we all are doing this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us in this webinar. Please enjoy the video clip of my speech at the Singhu border. Thank you.
ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਟ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਡੈਲੀਗੇਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਦੋਂ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਨੈਨੀ ਨਸਲੀ ਇੱਕ ਮਤਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਮਤਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁਣ 29 ਅਗਸਤ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਕੁਦਰਤੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਣ ਦਾ ਬਣਿਆ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹ ਅਪਰੂਵ ਹੋਇਆ ਜਨੈਨੀ ਨਸਲੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਸੰਮਤੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਟ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦਾ ਚੋਣ ਮੈਨੀਫੈਸਟੋ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੈਜ਼ੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਪਲੈਟਫਾਰਮ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਮਤਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਾਰਮਰ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਇਹ ਬੜਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸਕ ਕਦਮ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਦਾ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਜਿੰਦਾਬਾਦ ਜਿੰਦਾਬਾਦ।
Shima ji, thank you so much for sharing that. So very inspirational. At this time, we'd like to go ahead and invite all of our Sikh delegates on board, and we'd like to go ahead and have our delegates answer questions from our audience. One of the questions that we have right now is there an official greeting for Sikhs? Shima ji, I think you're muted.
I would like to take that. So like all cultures and all languages, they have various greetings. So we do have more than one greetings. Common greeting is Sat Sri Akal, which is, can anyone translate that in English? Sat Sri Akal. Jasjeet or Binti. Sat means truth. And the literal meaning of Sat Sri Akal is truth is God or God is truth. So truthful living is considered higher than the truth itself. That's what it means. So Sat Sri Akal, and other one is Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, which is victory belongs to God. And Khalsa, the pure ones, the people, Khalsa does not mean the only Sikhs. Any people with pure heart and pure intentions can be Khalsa. So victory belongs to Khalsa, and Khalsa, the pure ones, belong to God. That's another one. And some people, especially the Western side communities who have adopted the Sikh faith, they simply say Satnam, which means truthful living is your name, Satnam. It has been also used. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shima ji. The next question is, what were the farmers protesting?
Can you repeat the question again?
What were the farmers protesting? What was the farmers' protest?
Why were they protesting? So one thing is you need to, so I will take that question, sorry, that India has 1.4 billion population. And if you, especially the communities here in America, if they want to understand it, it's like 4 times the population of the United States. And the land area of India is only 1/3, approximately 1/3 of the United States. And you can imagine, people's resources and living conditions and everything. So 1.4 billion, so out of that 1.4 billion population, 60% of the population depends upon the agriculture or agriculture-related labor or related industries, which is very big portion. And then on top of that, out of those 60%, 80% of the people or farmers, they own only less than 1 hectare of land to survive. So, so they're very, very small family-owned farmers. And there is currently, it's not written into the law, but there is they call it minimum support price, MSP, which government assures the farmers to give them the price for their crop. So if 3 controversial laws, in these laws, one of the provision was to deregulate the government's oversight. So that means, in a way, they were touting, the government was touting that the farmers will be directly able to sell their products to the corporations. They might make more money or more profit, which is not true, because those farmers, they are not in that capacity to deal or negotiate with the big corporations. So they need to have that assurance of MSP, minimum support price, so that they can survive. So this was the big hurdle. So there were other related issues with those laws. This was the main problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Chimaji. The next question will be, what is something other communities can do to express solidarity with the Sikh community?
I can answer that.
Thank you, Jasdeep. Thank you.
Well, being here is exactly that, right? Coming here to our first ever webinar and listening to just listening to our stories. Sikh history is it's true. It's full of celebration. It's also full of hardship, and but something I'm sure all of you have heard at this point from the Sikh perspective is the idea of Chardi Kala, or loosely translated to eternal optimism. You know, we find those aspects of hardship and we rise from them, and then we celebrate it. The farmers' protest is an easy example of that. So, you know, constantly the Sikh community in California especially is very large, very vast. It's the largest community in the United States, is right here in the state of California. So to express solidarity, it's like coming to these events. The gurdwaras are a safe place. They're open to anyone from any background, from any faith. If you don't feel comfortable going on your own, please reach out to us. I'm sure one of us, we're all across the state, can make that trip with you. So feel free to see this as a safe space and reach out to us, and we can teach you more about the Sikh community and continue to talk to you about some of the issues that we do face and unfortunately continue to face. And we'd love to learn from other communities as well on what you may have done to overcome some of these hardships, so we can all learn together.
So thank you so much for the wonderful answer, Jasdeep Singh. I would like to add on a little bit more because thank you so much for your request that what you can do. I think knowing about each other's traditions, faiths, education is the most important, because after 9/11, I can share my story that I never had a turban before, and women, they are not required. I mean, nobody's required. It's all out of love, you know, the way we dress ourselves or keep our identities. So after 9/11, there were so much backlash against the Sikh community, especially men having turbans on. And my husband, I remember at the time, he was young and he has free-flowing beard. He does not tie it up. And then he exactly looked like the pictures showing on the TV, Osama bin Laden at the time. And then, so people, they start, you know, saying those remarks. And I have 3 wonderful sons who have decided to follow in their father's footstep, and then they also have unshorn hair and beard and everything. So at the time, kids, they start calling them, oh, Osama bin Laden, and I have to hear some of that stuff, you know, myself. So I started participating in the interfaith in events, and they were kind of new development after 9/11. So I admit that about my ignorance. I didn't know much about other faith traditions. I know, so I can give you one example. I was at the interfaith event, or it was conversation, and then I talked to someone. In my mind, I thought whoever believes in Jesus Christ, they are all Christians. I did not know that there are other variations like Catholics. So someone was Catholic, and I just loosely spoke. I said, you are Christians. So that person became upset at me. They say, I am not Christian. I am a Catholic. So this is just one example that we need to know more about each other, building the communities, coming together, celebrating together. I have done our family in Union City, especially, a lot of Sikh community have, because we have a big temple, Fremont Sikh temple. So our local community is very active in many events. So I think this is the best thing. We take time to learn about each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Chimaji, and thank you, Jasjit. Our next question is, who is the chair of the Sikh Delegates group, and what are some of the top priorities?
Anybody want to take it? So I can take it. Nobody said, you can add on after that. So what happened that after this election of the delegates in January, there was, I have been a delegate for so many terms already, and we never had this kind of association. But the farmers movement, I think, brought us together. And then because we felt like we share the values and how to represent our community, actually, Amar Shergill, he initiated this group. And he's also a chair of the Progressive Caucus. So we all share the progressive values, all of us, the delegates who are part of the Sikh delegate group. So that's how we came together. And there is no formal structure, there is no chair, there is no cashier. We don't do much other than just support the, some resolutions or some policy positions. So far, this is the new development, but we will see what we can do next. Anybody else, please jump on. So share your thoughts in this.
If no one else is going to jump on, I'll just add. So yes, we thank you for that, Chimaji. We do not have a chair. It is a collective effort. And in terms of the priorities include, again, efforts like this. It's an opportunity for us to talk about issues that are related to the Sikh community, issues that we face, whether it's issues with folks in our neighborhoods, in our communities, at our schools. Our ability, I'd say, our power here is to uplift the concerns of the community. And I think that's why we exist. We exist to provide that unique voice and that unique perspective of the Sikh community, which, although the Sikh community falls within the larger scope of the South Asian community or even the Asian community, we feel that there are specific needs and concerns that we have that come from our historical background or some of the unique issues that we faced over the years and during our time in the United States and here in California, that prompted us to create a group that solely provides a unique voice for our small but mighty community here in California. So we're excited to continue coming up with programming, finding ways to uplift the voice of the community. And I think that's also, your question actually prompts a pretty good thought for us, something for us to think about, is like maybe list out some of those priorities and kind of share those more clearly for folks in the future. So we'll take that as a good suggestion and work on that. So thank you, Iris.
So to add on a little bit more to that so one was the farmers protest and other one was the Black Lives Matter movement also that contributed. So we the delegates, we believe in that movement too. So thank you.
Yeah, I also want to add one more item on the initiatives. This is also a platform for us to uplift the younger population and how they can get involved, how they can see this group and they can say, look at us and see and say that can be me in 5 years or 6 years, and show them that there's more out there just than what they're doing, and that they have the capability and the ability to do whatever they want, whether it's on a local level, a statewide level, a national level, that they can. And, to support that and to spread that within the Sikh community, and to support those local and statewide issues that are in line with the Sikh values, such as environmental issues. That's also on our forefront, is to make sure that we're that voice for the Sikh community, but also give them a platform to raise their concerns.
Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chandra. That was very well put. Our next question is going to be, what are the Sikh delegates' initiatives to reduce hate crimes in the U.S., and how can fellow delegates help in those initiatives?
I can take that question, and I see Deepa had put that in the chat, so thank you, Deepa, for that question. I think we are a very new group, and so what the levers that we have to push around hate crimes as a group, we're still exploring. But one of the things that we're thinking about as we enter an election year next year is advocating for policies or, around hate crimes, not just targeting the Sikhs, but the Asian community, African American community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community. We know that it's well documented. It's been on the rise over the last few years. So one of the things we want to do as candidates are running is raise these issues with them, get some commitments from them, and as a collaborative within the party, offer ourselves to support those efforts and platform those efforts. So that's one of the things. Ultimately, I think we can't reduce the hate crimes. We can implore those who have those positions of power to implement policies and strategies and tactics to reduce hate crimes, because we're not perpetrating them, right? So we can't just say we're not going to have hate crimes anymore, but we need to make sure that those people who have those positions can help pass policies and take actions to reduce hate crimes. So that's one of the things. And how can fellow delegates help in those? I think that's a good conversation, as Ajit kind of alluded to earlier, something for us to kind of take away and consider. But I do think it's important to include us at the table where these within the party, these issues are being discussed. And so the Sikh voice isn't left out. And there's a unique opportunity here because we are such a large collaborative of Sikhs in districts up and down the state, from urban areas to rural areas, and all walks of life, to offer some of those voices to the conversation. So where you can invite us to be part of those conversations, we would be happy to participate.
So to fill in the last blank, I would like to add that don't be surprised when you see somebody from this group or related to this group runs for the Congress or some other positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy Ji. Thank you, Chimaji. Yes. Our next question is going to be, what are the top legislative priorities of the Sikh delegates?
I see these questions from Sean. I feel like we've kind of answered this in the sense that we are still exploring ways in which we can be effective. But in terms of our priorities, they are aligned with continue to not only stand in solidarity with efforts that are aligned with building power for communities, communities who have been historically neglected or underrepresented, and also finding ways to build, I'd say, beyond awareness efforts, right? Legislative efforts that may raise awareness of the Sikh community, but we're looking for ways that we can find support so that we can push legislative efforts that can fundamentally shift the way Sikhs and other communities that are historically neglected can rise into positions of power, can rise into spaces where they can hold their own, and for us to speak for ourselves. I think that's what we're looking for. And when it comes to the support we need from the community, we need that support to help us get to those tables, to help us have chairs at those organizations. So that's just one thought I have. I wouldn't say that we can clearly tell you exactly what legislative priorities we have right now, but they are definitely aligned with going beyond just awareness. It's getting to the crux of the problem and trying to figure out how 100 years of history in this one, the leap sing song, you know.
Thank you.
And I'll just add to that, you know, we aren't a formal caucus. We aren't a formal organization. We are a collaborative of Sikhs who are connected by identity and some guiding principles. There's a lot of diversity within our group, and we try to keep an open tent. But you know, we also, this is a unique opportunity for the Democratic Party to bridge and build a relationship with the Sikh community. And we have large populations in various districts in the state. So it's not just a matter of what can we do for the Sikh community, but how can we strengthen the relationship between the Sikh community and the California Democratic Party? And because, you know, we are from across the state, and we are a cross section of the community. We do find that this is such an exciting opportunity for us. So it's not just legislative, but it's also around, you know, how can we make those connections within the party?
So we have only a few more minutes left. So I would like to say thank you to all the attendees, especially to Asian and Pacific Caucus Chair, Deepa Sharma and Haris Mojadedi, who used to live in my district, and he served on New Haven's Unified District's school board as a student trustee in high school. So we have a long time relationship. So thank you so much for taking the time today to join us and build bridges. Thank you.
We have
So
one more question from, I'm so sorry if I pronounced her name wrong, Murtaza Mogri, and it was, were the farmers' protests suppressed? Do you know how many people were involved in the protests? And how was such a long protest sustained?
So there were millions of people involved, farmers from all over India. And that was very amazing for myself. Actually, I tried to dig out how they were able to sustain it. So for first few months, you know, it was just a natural process. And then, for example, when we went to India in October, there was a harvest season for rice paddy, and then also sowing the wheat crop. So it was very busy season. So farmers unions, talk about unions here too, right? So they organized their members in the villages, in the countryside. And from villages, people, they would take turns, like 5 farmers from each village. And such and such village, they will go, it's your turn, your turn, your turn. And people, they will collect money to support people who were going to join Delhi. And there were some people who stayed back, they joined the local protest sites as well. So that's how they sustained it. And also, it was amazing to see the sense of cooperation and collaboration in such a, you know, big protest. And we were able to visit those makeshift encampments with the tractors, the trolleys, with the you know, just the amazing. They created, some of the farmers, they even sold some vegetables. They were producing the vegetables, you know, while they were, you know, sitting on the on the protest. And I was amazed to see one thing, that on the day I spoke, it was not a big crowd, but people who were sitting in their huts or the small encampments all over the place, they were able to listen. There was a system already in place that they could listen to all the speeches. So every day the speech period was from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And other than that, farmers, they just, talk to each other and enjoyed each other's company and discuss the future plans or that kind of stuff. So, but they were able to listen to all the live programs right there in thousands of those encampment, huts, so to speak. And there was such a sense of cooperation, and somebody who has the skill, for example, to जूते गांठते हैं ना, पंजाबी में बोलते हैं या हिंदी में बोलते हैं, right? So they will repair the shoes, the broken shoes. They will repair the broken watch, for example. Somebody who has that skill, they will share those skills with other people and contribute. So it was just amazing. And then when the family members, they went to Delhi border to participate in the protests, the rest of the village people, they would take care of their family. So there is a lot of solidarity. People, they care about each other. They came closer because of those protests. So this was amazing, massive effort and organizing.
Yeah, I'll just add, Murtaza, if I'm saying your name correctly, that the suppression was absolutely there. I wanna just state that almost 700 farmers passed in the last year of this protest. So in terms of the human toll of what was endured, there was absolutely suppression. There was suppression of freedom of speech. Independent journalists were arrested. The state had their own journalists who were attempting to kind of provide their own narrative on the situation. Violence was used, yet people sustained. People continued to push through and remain at the protest site and continued to organize. And that organization went worldwide. We were fortunate to participate here. Individuals here participated. The California Democratic Party participated by providing a resolution in support of the farmers. So I think that was some of the ways that even through that suppression, we were able to push through and make such a successful outcome amidst all the loss that the community faced. So it looks like we do have some more questions, not to take over, Devinder, just keep seeing these come through. So Deep, if that question's for everyone, I'll just say, I mean, I think the Asian American Pacific Islander identity is a very large identity blob that we've all been given, I think. But for purposes of that identity, I think everyone can maybe identify separately or how they feel, but I'll just answer that I do. And I think in many ways, in terms of how we see ourselves within the way that our communities are grouped together, and for maybe census purposes and other things, absolutely, that's the identity that we kind of, I think all of us, at least here on the delegate group, do in some way, shape or form identify as being AAPI. So we have, Winty, you said there's a few more questions. Are there some questions that I'm missing? I might not be able to see them all. I want to answer as many as we can. I know we're a minute over, but if folks, we can try to answer whatever questions are still left here and don't mind answering questions.
So we have 2 questions. The first one is, they would like to thank us for opening our meeting to the public. They're in Union City and they're interested in getting involved. What is the best way to put your foot into civic engagement?
Pretty sure Sarvjit is in Union City. So.
Yeah, Jitendra is also from Union City. So become a member of the Democrat Club, that's one thing we will suggest. And then there are other opportunities. For example, we have a Union City Historical Museum, and they always need volunteers. And then you start to get to know other people and other volunteers in the community, other activists. So that's the way we start. So we can please meet with me after the meeting anytime. We will let you know our phone number, and then we can have a chat and get you started. I really appreciate that somebody steps up to do this labor of love, I call it. So yeah, thank you.
And I just want to add on that tagging on to somebody's campaign, when it's election year, regardless of election year or not, there's always some local election going on. There's congressional elections going on based on what your interest is. Get involved from the base level up. There's so many opportunities.
Sure. Looks like the last question we have is, would love to hear the delegates share about the relationship between the state and the Sikhs and how we seek to represent ourselves. So for example, Baba Wendy Singh's murder in Tracy has not been solved, and the DA has been given Gurdwara stages because of personal career agendas. For us, the priority for us is the Sikh community that we're representing, or we're trying to represent or raise awareness for the concerns that continue to kind of rise up for our community. So in terms of the relationship between the state and the Sikhs, our goal is always to continue to steer the Democratic Party in the direction towards justice and towards a direction of creating a party that actually is responsive to the community's concerns and responsive to the diversity that exists in the state. Although I have some knowledge of what's going on with Baba Wendy Singh's murder, I do understand it has not been solved. I don't have the details of the case itself, but I see us absolutely making sure that some sort of justice is provided in whatever format we can get that to. So if you want to reach out directly to us, Mandeep, and see if you can give us some more details on where you believe that the case currently sits, I think we can talk about that offline and kind of have a conversation. It would be great. I'm sure some of us know about it. I think we have some delegates from the Tracy area, but some of us are not from the Tracy area. So maybe some more details that you want to provide to us offline, would be happy to take those questions. So appreciate you bringing that up to the community.
So I would like to say that I do see very kind words for me from some of the attendees. I appreciate those, but I was trying to answer you individually there, say thank you. But my keyboard is typing in Punjabi at this time, so I'm not in a position. Thank you so much for, in the end, we are all together. We are all human beings. That's what Guru Nanak has mentioned, that, human race is the one race. So we are together in this, life's what is bringing to us, the challenges. So make it a more fair and just society for everyone. Thank you. Oh, we were not even thinking to have this long, so I'm so glad. This was our first attempt and I consider it very successful. Thank you so much for all the team members behind the scene or participating to make this one a successful event. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. A big shout out to Robin Rahil, who's been really working behind the scenes with bouncing off all the questions and everything. So a big shout out to you. And yes, everyone behind the scenes, this couldn't have happened. A big shout out to Deepa Sharmaji, who is from the chair API caucus, and Harish Majodi, Northern chair of API caucus. And on behalf of our 6 delegates, a very big heartfelt thank you for joining us and taking the moment to celebrate our Sikh Awareness Month. We greatly do appreciate you taking the time and learning and asking questions. And yes, we just want to say thank you. Thank you very much. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Recording stopped.